Okay, after talking about the definition of communication, we're gonna look at some classic models of communication in this video. So the first model I want to talk about is called linear communication model. And this model is the simplest, the earliest model in communication history. And this model can be easily described in one sentence. That is, who communicates what message through which channel to whom with what effect. And we also call this linear communication model 5 Ws because we have five words started with the letter W here. Who says what message through what channel to whom with what effect. Very simple, right? If I'm gonna ask you guys to think about this model, what kind of shortages does this model have? What kind of limitations does this model have? If I'm gonna ask you guys to improve this model, what kind of elements you would add there? Let's think about this model. So this model is super linear, right? It's just the same set of the communication only happens in a one-way direction. Well, in reality, this doesn't make sense, right? Because for most situations, if not all, the communication happens in a two-way direction. So to improve this model, we could add a kind of a loop here to add the feedback from this message receiver to the message sender. So if we want to improve this model by adding the feedback, we now move to the second model here. We call it interactive communication model. And this model can be visualized as the sender sends out a message to the message receiver, and the message receiver would provide feedback to the message sender. And this whole conversation, this communication, happens in a big environment. So we call this model interactive communication model. So remember, there are two elements added on top of the linear communication model, which is feedback and environment. So after having these two elements, we have this interactive communication model. Again, the main point of this interactive communication model is that you got some interactions here. It's not just a one-way direction. It's not a straight linear model. The receiver provides some feedback to the sender. So here is a little loop here. Okay, so this is the interactive communication model. And if we still want to improve it, keep improving it, there is still some room for improvement, right? So think about this. It's not a normal case that a person keeps talking, whereas the other person just provides feedback. So if we want to work on this part and make some improvement, here is the third model. We call it transactional model of communication. The essential idea here is both parties would make equal contribution and participation into this communication process. That means at a given moment, you are sending out the message by speaking and making some facial expressions. At the same time, you are also receiving your partner's messages by listening and observing. And the same holds true for your communication partner. This person is also sending out the messages through verbal and non-verbal cues. At the same time, this person is also receiving any messages, any points from you by observing, by listening. So, in other words, every person in this communication is decoder and encoder. So we translate what we have in mind into language and send out to the other person. The other person interprets it and then encodes the message in mind and then send out his or her ideas or thoughts by using language. This is a reciprocal process. And second improvement made by this model is that it acknowledges the existence of noise. So noise refers to anything that distorts communication or interferes with people's understanding of one another. So in other words, anything distracting our attention distorts the transmission of our message. We would call it noise. And there are 4 types of noise here. They are physical, physiological, psychological, and semantic. Let's take a look of each type of the noise, and I'll give you guys definition and some media examples. The first type of noise, we call it physical noise. That refers to any interference in our environment, which may interfere with the correct receiving and interpretation of the message. For example, the traffic outside our classroom is too loud and I can barely hear what the teacher is talking about. So this traffic sound represents one physical noise. And let's say if this light is too dim and I cannot see clearly what is being written on the board. So this dim light is a physical noise as well. So something happening in this environment, we call it a physical noise. So I prepared a video example below. Please click in the first video. The media video is coming from the movie The Edge of Tomorrow. So take a look at this example and come back to our lecture. Okay, welcome back. So we can see that in this video, there is a huge physical noise, which is the engine noise, engine sound. And this noise is so big, and it made the character played by Tom Cruise barely hear clearly what his partner was saying. So next, I want to talk about the physiological and the psychological noise. These 2 noises are kind of similar with each other, so we're going to talk about them together to do a comparison. So first, both of them have something to do with the communication partners, the message receiver or the message sender. So the first one, physiological noise, it refers to the biological influences on the message reception and interpretation. So it could be on the message sender's side, such as this message sender has articulation problem. They do lots of mumbling, they talk too fast or too slow, and the message receiver cannot follow it. It could also be some distractions on the receiver's side, such as fatigue, hunger, right? Such as I'm so tired and I cannot follow this conversation. And this is an example that the message receiver has a physiological noise here. And I also prepared a video, so please click the second video below and take a look of this physiological noise. So welcome back. We can see that this female, she just got back from Disneyland and she cannot hear anything due to this overwhelmed mind. Apparently, she is experiencing such a physiological noise. Okay, probably due to fatigue, due to, I don't know, having too much fun in Disneyland. So let's talk about the third type of noise, psychological noise. Again, it's something dealing with the message receiver or message sender side. It's all about the communicators. That refers to the mental interference in the speaker or the listener. For example, anxiety, worrisome about some issue, anger, depression, these emotions may make us feel difficult to focus on the conversation and would interfere our accurate interpretation of the message. For example, when we are feeling really bad, having a really bad mood, we tend to think people, they are mean, they are rude, they are jerk, right? And of course, this is not true in the reality. It is just our biased feeling. So this biased feeling will interfere us from accurately interpreting the message. So please click the third video below, and this video from the movie 500 Days of Summer is an example how Tom, the male character, is influenced by his very good mood from having one night with Summer. And we can see that he interpreted other people being nice, being kind. Okay, so I want to say that sometimes our biased feelings, thoughts, and preconceived ideas are also psychological noise. For example, let's say I'm a big fan of Apple product, or the other way around, I'm a big fan of Android system. So I would think that the other system sucks, the design, the user experience, etc. So probably I'm gonna hold this prejudice for several years. And this psychological noise may interfere with my willingness to hear the new perspective. So probably for years, I refuse to read any articles, any reviews about the other product. And it is very possible that the other product or the other brand has a pretty good new product. They are getting way better. But it is because this prejudice, it is because these preconceived ideas, I just don't want to believe their advertisement. And of course, this will interfere with my accurate interpretation or reception of the message. Okay, so the last one is something called semantic noise. That is something about the text or the message being delivered. It has nothing to do with the message sender or receiver or the environment. So this semantic noise applies when the message senders and receivers apply different meanings to the same message. For example, I am using some jargon, some technical language, and you cannot understand it. We are having a semantic noise because for the same symbol, we are giving them different meanings, right? So probably they are meaningful to me, but they mean nothing to you because you don't have the background information, you don't have the relevant knowledge. So we are experiencing a semantic noise here. And sometimes if I'm using bad grammar and you cannot interpret it into in a correct way, you cannot understand it, it's still a semantic noise because given the same symbol, we are drawing different meanings from it. So that is the semantic noise. And there is a video example here from the movie Friends. So take a look of this video and can you spot where is this semantic noise here? And also prepare some practice exercise for you guys in the next video. So let's take a look.